Welcome back for part 2 of Future Men by Doug Wilson with Mr. Timothy Dwight D. Eisenhower McMillan.
Some of that is true.
We're hoping to tackle at least another big chunk of this, or maybe finish the book this time. And one thing that's great about this book is not only does it talk about how to raise future men, a lot of it has been good for parenting in general, right? And also helping you be a man.
Yeah, really. That's something that I thought too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a shaping, helpful thing, as really like a lot of reading does, where somebody takes you by the hand and is like, "Hey, look over there. Have you thought about that before?" And you can either go, "Yeah, I've seen that before," or you can be like, "No, I've never seen that before in my life," and pause and think about it. And so the purpose of the book day is really just to read the parts of the book where we paused and thought, or maybe that were interesting, or one-liners that are good, or it could be anything. It could be whatever.
Yeah. So, or if it's a quote from C.S. Lewis.
It's probably going to mark then, yeah.
Yep.
Did he write any books of his own that we can read, or do we just have to find quotes in other books?
Just find quotes in other books.
We should collect all of his quotes so he can have his own book sometime.
It would be smart to do.
I think people would buy it.
Maybe.
If he wrote, like if he authored a title of his own. It's probably a crazy idea.
Instead, we should buy the books that have his quotes in it. Who knows where they got the quotes?
That's funny. What's funny is like we bought those quote books recently that are like this thick of quotes from C.S. Lewis.
Uh-huh.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. My next one. So the way these work, if you haven't seen it, what we do is we mark a section in the book that we want to talk about. We make a note of it in the back. And then when we get together, we talk about the sections that we noted. We read them and then sort of discuss them, or just go, "That's good," and move on to the next one. So,
did you mentioned the title of the book again, right?
Yeah, Future Men, Douglas Wilson.
Yep.
There it is for the second time.
Yep. There you go.
Well done. Well done, Mr. Big T.
I just don't remember if you did or not. Good job.
Wheel of Fortune style.
So we did. He already mentioned we did a video already, and we covered
Notes
almost
up to page
half of
49.
mine. Yep, 49.
Almost half of mine. Like you can see, we're to here on mine, so it's a little more than half.
Oh,
but
okay,
it's
good.
close. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it took about an hour.
Yep.
So we'll see how far we get this time.
Yep. Let's do it. Who's up now? I'm page 60. Is it me?
No, I still have some. I'm still excited.
After
50.
page 40. Oh wow. Okay.
50 and 51.
Page 50. So if you've got the book, open to page 50. Join us. Read with us. In fact, I'd like it if you took a turn every once in a while to read it out loud.
Maybe to your wife or to your children.
Unless you're a woman.
And then to your husband and your children. Owned. Okay, mine is meekness on 50. I'm going to double check to make sure that's the right heading.
Well, it does say meekness on this book.
There we go.
I bet it's in the second paragraph.
It actually starts with meekness in the first partial.
Oh, okay.
So it's in mine. It's in the corner over here. But yours probably somewhere else, maybe. It's right after Job 4:4. Meekness.
Okay, I'm there.
Meekness is not a weakness before man. It is a submission to God, which equips a man to stand tall and upright before lawless thrones, as 3 young men once did in Babylon. I remember when you did a sermon on that. That was great.
Blessed are the meek.
Mm-hmm.
And how I said, meekness doesn't mean pliable.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah, that's not weakness. That was good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in this one, he's meekness is not weakness before man. It's not, like you said, pliable. You're not
easily persuaded to do wrong, nor easily persuaded from doing what's right. That was what I was worried about when preaching on meekness. Is that people would see it as easily being persuaded to do wrong or persuaded from doing right, and being like, I'm so spiritual because I'm not self-willed. When really I'm just self-willed in this particular way.
So I like that. But it is, it's good. Since we said meekness is not weakness, it is submission to God. So what God says, do. I lost my train of thought.
From the heart. Let's just end there.
Okay, sounds good.
Do it from the heart. Anything else on that page? Or
nope.
Okay, I'm
page 51 though.
Go for it. I'm not bitter.
Built for battle.
Oh.
It's going to be the last, the second to last.
Okay.
Whole paragraph. If they are taught, boys will respond to a clear statement of the mission before the church. Boys are built for battle, as they must be trained up to it. But if we continue to teach the hopelessness of all our earthly endeavors, we must not be surprised when those among us who are built, created for earthly endeavors, take their strength elsewhere. Why do boys not like to come to church? We wonder. The answer is that we chase them out with an insipid, and impotent doctrine.
We make them women.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
We make them feel like women even. Like boys don't want to grow up to being women in a church. Then we feminize the men in the church. Yeah.
And most, I think like women are church members more than men or whatever. I think that's like a generally true statistic. And I don't know why that is. It probably hasn't always been that way. But I'm wondering if it's because like of all the women in the pulpits of both genders.
That's good. I was like, well, there's not a whole lot of women.
Right, and so I don't know if like they're attracted to it or whatever, or since it's more prevalent, there's more of them in church. I have no idea. I'm just speculating. But here he's saying men don't go to church because churches are effeminate in certain ways that they should be more masculine.
Yeah. And
like fighting for the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is another interesting thing that we pointed out previously. Like a woman should fight for the truth, right? But the way a woman fights for the truth is going to be different than the way that a man fights for the truth.
Yeah.
Like a man might fight for the truth more outside of the home. I'm not saying a woman can't fight for truth outside the home, but a woman's fight might be, the fight to get food on the table and train the children in godliness.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of fight. Not saying that that's not a man's fight, because men, you should be leading your home spiritually or whatever, but we're not. It's just effeminate churches, women in the pulpits, both genders.
Yeah.
Being a problem.
I think I heard something similar. It could have been Vodi Bachman, but it could have also been Douglas Wilson that said this. That talked about how a lot of men don't want to go to heaven. I'm pretty sure
it was Vodi. Yep.
A lot of men aren't like super excited about heaven because when pastors teach about heaven, it's a place filled with butterflies and unicorns, and it's not like they don't portray it rightly. They portray it as a place for women.
Sure.
So Vodi Bachman didn't say all of that.
No, he said it better than you did.
Yeah.
But that's okay. He said it better than I would be able to say too. Because it's not like there's nothing wrong with butterflies and clouds and harps or whatever, some of the traditional tropes associated with heaven. It's like, but we're missing something there or whatever. Like we're missing the fact that Jesus's garments in the end are stained with the blood of his enemies. Like, are we comfortable with that language? Are we as comfortable with that as we are with streets of gold? If not, then there's something missing somewhere.
Yeah. So I think it's yours now.
60. This is called A Man Doesn't work, neither should he eat. A model of education. I like this. And we may or may not incorporate this strategy in my own home. I'll read page 60, and it's under parental preparation, just that first paragraph.
Okay.
It says, a boy who learns to settle into laziness is being prepared by his parents for a life of frustration. The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. So if you're not done with your school, should you eat lunch? I don't know. If you don't work, you shouldn't eat. Just saying. It's an idea. and it's not like you don't feed the kids at all, right? But we have had it before where, like, some of the kids want to be lazy. Okay. Well, actually, it's usually just one. The oldest boy. And it's like, well, if you wanted to be lazy, everyone's going to go eat lunch because they worked hard. You're going to go work hard and then come join us when you're finished. And it's not all the time because it's sort of disheartening, but it should be. You didn't work, you missed out on the opportunity, you missed out on being with others.
Yeah, it shows him.
Yep.
Helps him see that laziness, the reality of it. Because if he were, say, in an apartment or whatever, or out of the house somewhere, and he didn't go to work, that's what would happen. Or if he was lazy at work, he would get fired. Yeah, assumably, and that thing would happen. He would be hungry. He wouldn't benefit from what he was set out to do. So, like, same thing with school. You don't do your school, then you're not gonna be. So you're teaching him consequence of being lazy. And it's simple, like, his plate's ready, it's right there, but you're gonna have to wait. Yep. So you can put that in your tip jar and keep it for whatever. Actually, I'm gonna mark it too. Yeah, it's on page it's just page 60, and it's that little blurb. My next one's not till page 80, and right there it just ends with the verse, Proverbs 13:4. Okay. Is where I stopped it. My next one's on page 80. Sorry. My next one is on 61, so it's the next one. Oh, right on. Only God as a warning, looks like. But with my handwriting, you never know. Actually, I want to write down the page number. Sorry. Oh, that's all right. Okay, so only God as a warning. Page 61. Second full paragraph. After at last, it starts with parents. Parents who rob their sons of a work ethic have taken from him one of his life's most precious gifts. Sabbath rest. Oh, okay. Okay. Sabbath rest. The fourth commandment has two parts, and they depend upon one another. One part, of course, is the day of rest, but the other part is the 6 days of labor. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Without the labor, the rest is non-essential. Without nonsensical. Sorry. And it's non-essential too. But it's also nonsensical. I'm glad you corrected me, by the way. Sure. I'm not bitter for your correcting. I'm bitter you got it wrong. Well, I'm sorry. Without the labor, the rest is nonsensical. Without the rest, the work is slavery. I don't know why I don't have that marked, but it is good. I don't remember the slavery part, but it is good. Learned together, a boy comes to comprehend the dignity of labor that is offered up to God in the name of Christ. He learns to rest on the first day of the week in the way that consecrates all his subsequent labors.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's like the Lord's Day. I've used this example before, and I stole it from Joe Rigney, and it applies to family worship, to some type of daily devotion, to family worship, daily devotion, reading at meal times, the Lord's Day, corporate worship. All those are opportunities where we acknowledge the vertical aspect, like deliberately acknowledging the vertical aspect of the soul and God. And that helps you with all the other horizontal aspects. And so the Lord's Day is like a day where we touch base for a little while so that we can go run for the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come back, you touch base, you're good. You remember where your home is, and then go get to work.
Yeah.
And all those like family worship, devotions, all those things are those times where you're like, pause, now run the race.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Stole from Joe Rigney.
Thief.
I did it. Stole like an artist. Page 80. 80 is still my next one.
Oh,
it hasn't changed.
Oh. So I'm sorry, people. That one that I just did.
Yeah.
Is Sabbath Rest.
Oh, yes.
That's what it's called on my
Makes
notes.
sense. Which sticks with your originality.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would I say God is the only warning for that?
That's true.
So I apologize for that. I apologize for all my other blunders too.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm not sorry.
I am sorry. All right, so on page 61, still at the very bottom, then, is only God as a warning.
Oh, okay.
So let's try this again. In the end, laziness is intended by God to be an object lesson. This means that other mothers get to point at your son in order to warn their boys not to be like that. As my grandmother once put it to her 6 sons, "Be good, don't be like the other boys." I went by the field of the lazy man, and by the vineyard of the man devoid of understanding. The results of laziness are obvious for all to see, and they should be pointed out. Diligent parents use lazy boys, not the chair, lazy boys in the community as a negative object lesson, and they labor to keep their own sons from being used by other parents the same way.
That's good.
Yeah, I liked it.
Some people will probably look at that and be like, so insensitive.
Yeah.
But it's like...
I think my wife and I have talked about that recently. I don't remember. It wasn't about boys, but it was about us being a warning for others.
Oh, yeah, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
I preached a sermon one time called, like, don't be a byword. About, like, God telling the nation of Israel, like, I'll make you a byword and a proverb among the nations.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is.
So that's what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think that's what you're saying you and your wife talked about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be the bad example.
Yeah, we don't want to be the bad example, but we shouldn't be displeased when people use us as bad examples to help warn other people of the wrong.
Yeah.
So, like, certain things that we do wrong, and it's had consequences. We would not necessarily want other people to know that. But if somebody uses it as an example, we shouldn't be offended by it because it's a wrong that we did. And if we can be a help to others through it, not saying you should go do wrong things and have consequences.
Yeah,
but
I think there's a Christian way to be fine with you being a bad example for the mistakes you've made in your life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is, like, there's a Christian way for other people to use that example, and there's an unchristian way to do it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a way of just like gossiping or slighting or underhandedly making a comment that's really to bash someone or whatever.
Yeah, and that's wrong.
Yeah, but there's obviously a way where you can be like, or where you can use yourself as the bad example. I'm thinking of someone else using you, but like where you can use you as the bad example. You can be like, hey, I screwed up and did this.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
Or be like, remember when we did this? That sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
I'm glad that we had that.
Mm-hmm. still 80 is my next one.
Still 65. Not easy. Wait. Only good as a warning. Ha ha ha. Not only God as a warning. That's another mistake of mine. It wasn't only God as a warning.
Okay.
I'll try to do better.
That's okay.
Not easier, harder. That's my heading for this one.
When we talk about you, we'll do it in a Christian way as a negative example.
Sounds bad. In a Christian way as a negative example. There's a lot of negative examples in the Bible, like David and Bathsheba.
Yeah. There's very few people that there's no fault recorded.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm thankful that I'm not written in the Bible. I'm just going to say that.
Oh, yeah. You mean for the whole world to
yeah.
see?
Like there's...
Like, what, you don't want to be a help to the whole world?
Well, thank you for that. Oh, you're so selfish. Proud. You're like the spiritual nudist. Like, everyone look at my faults. Learn from me. Learn from me right now.
You're just trying to make yourself feel better. Okay. It's not easier, it's harder. And it's the last paragraph. It should be obvious by now that laziness is hard. The way of the lazy man is like a hedge of thorns, but the way of the upright is a highway. Proverbs 15:19. Proverbs teaches us that laziness is counterproductive. It does not accomplish its desired end. The hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor. So it's not easy to be lazy. It's actually hard.
Mm-hmm.
If you're lazy, you actually have to... Okay, so here's a good example. I'll be the spiritual nudist and use myself as an example. So as a kid, my parents did well in raising me and in educating me, but as a rebellious child... Punk, that's a good word. I would decline... I would fail to do my school like I should have. I would be lazy, and I would very much not care for my father's instruction. And now, it's a lot harder for me to learn. It's very difficult for me to... I'm starting from a child's, I guess, where I left off.
Sure.
Which is actually a lot harder. So if there's any kids watching this, do your school. Stay in school, kids. It is. It really is. It's a lot harder, and I'm still growing and learning, but it is much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very much thankful for this knucklehead for being a help.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
I'm just pumping you full of hot air.
My head is already sometimes struggles to get in certain doorways, and Tim's like...
It's that I can laugh at him.
When the fall comes.
Think I'm here to help you?
Yeah, that's a valid point, and it's a valid point. It perfectly does illustrate that laziness is hard.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, it seems easy, and it's ultimately, like, it is hard.
Yeah, it really is.
I do like that example. You spiritual nudist. It was a valid example. It was good.
81's my next one, so what's yours now?
Oh, page 80. A word or 2 paragraphs on Christian liberty. That's really what the heading is.
A word or 2 paragraphs
on Christian liberty. Okay, page 80, starting with Christian liberty, right? Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Christian liberty is given so that we might learn to be holy, that he would grant unto us that we, being delivered out of the land of our enemies, might serve him without fear in holiness and righteousness before him all the days of our life. When a son asks to able to do, does yours have wonky wording right there?
When a son asks to be able to do, yeah.
Okay, when a son asks to be able to do this or that, a very reasonable question is, why? And when these debatable matters are under discussion, the answer is almost never, because I want to be holy. So your kid comes to you and says, I want to go out till 10 o'clock. And you say, why? And the child's like, to be holy. That never happens, right? And yet here your goal, like his point is saying, yeah, you have liberty as a Christian to be holy. Right? You're not like, okay, so that's good. So like it shows like you're free, but you're not free to sin. You know, like, yes, child, like I want you to see this house as a garden of yes, where there's many possibilities for you. But when I ask you why you want to do something, your motive should be a good one, which should be rooted in reflecting God or doing good to your neighbor or whatever, you know. Next paragraph starts with young men.
Okay.
Young men must learn where their temptations will be. It's not enough to learn what the Bible says about the content of our liberty. The Bible is equally emphatic about the purpose of our liberty. And so that's where he gets to the verse from Luke, where he says, yes, you're delivered from the hands of your enemies. To do what? You're delivered from the kingdom of darkness. You're delivered from the power of Satan. You're delivered from the vices of the world. For what? And then Luke gives the answer. He says, that you might serve him without fear and holiness. Like, that's why you're delivered. You're delivered from the evil to do the good. And so the purpose of your freedom is to do good.
Oh, yeah.
Is it clicking now?
Yeah, it's clicking now.
Okay, good. My next one's on page 87.
I've got one on 81.
Oh, yeah, right on.
Teaching to drink. It's the only paragraph on the page.
Oh, mine has two.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's all good.
Okay, so it's the last
Very
paragraph.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if my letters are just slightly smaller or if the
Something in the earlier, there must be like a few deleted sentences or
there
something.
could be, yeah. But with all this said, wine was given to gladden the heart of man. And one of the duties of a father is to teach his son to drink. Oh man, I think I got my heading wrong again.
No.
Did I say teaching to drink? Okay, yeah, good. So one of the things is, well, when I marked this, I wasn't expecting to be on camera, so take whatever I have to say with a grain of salt.
Which is true, but it's still good. Okay, go ahead. Lay it on me.
So, I drink. But I drink to the glory of God, and I want to teach my son to drink to the glory of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to drink so you can get drunk, which would be wrong.
Right.
But God gives us drink to gladden the heart, and we are told not to get drunk in Scripture. So,
and those are both true.
Mm-hmm.
And to teach one, why would you teach one and not the other?
Yeah. And so I want to teach my son, don't get drunk. But I also want to teach him how to drink right. Like,
just like using anything right.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah.
Because if I don't teach him, he'll go out into the world.
Someone will teach him.
Yeah.
And they'll teach him the wrong.
Yeah, if it's not me, it's one of his friends.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yep, there's that one.
Hearty amen.
And then my next one isn't till 83. Yeah,
87 is my next one.
Oh,
so
okay.
you're up.
This one has no heading. It's a mystery what I'm going to speak forth, but that's always been a mystery. So 83. It's the second full paragraph. As the head of the home, the father is responsible to know the spiritual state of the home, how each member is doing in his relationship with God, and how they are all doing with one another. A father needs to know the state of his flock. If we walk in the light, as God is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. If we are not in fellowship with one another, then at the least, one person is not in fellowship with God. But while the fact of any strained relationships may be easy for a husband and father to ascertain, the underlying causes of the temptations may be much more difficult for him to identify. So I really like that one because it not only tells a father to be active in the home, many fathers aren't, but like, it not only teaches the father to be aware of what's going on in the home, to care about what's going on, to ask how your wife's day is going or the kiddo's days is going. It's you're supposed to be the leader of your home, which means you know what's going on in the home.
Yeah, you're responsible for it whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Like that is your area of responsibility. You say, I didn't know. Well, you should have known. This is your garden, so to speak. This is your plot.
I like that.
Yeah, this is your place. Like, you say you didn't know, but that just adds another layer to your culpability.
Yeah.
Because you should have known.
Yeah. So I like it because of that. But then another thing I like it about it too is that it doesn't just tell you to care about it. It also tells you to really care about it. Like, don't just fix the surface issues. If there's deeper issues, then root them out.
Yeah.
Take those weeds out of the garden.
I like how he points out that that's harder. It's usually easy to be like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to be like, weed.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, that's the problem. Tear it out.
Yeah.
Like you said. Yeah, that's way harder. Way harder. I mean, think of it this way. How hard is that to do for yourself?
It's pretty
When you're like, when just for yourself, you're like, something is wrong. And you know yourself, like, something is wrong with me. I'm not feeling right. And then you have to figure out why. Right? And so it's like 10 times harder when it's like something's not wrong in the home and I have to figure out why.
Yeah.
I'm a paradox wrapped in an enigma, shrouded in mystery. And here I've got like
a bunch of them.
yeah, you know, right? So that's the calling, though, me.
Yep. So my next one's not till 118. Wow, that stings.
I've been waiting so long. It's been like, me, you, me, you. And it's finally like, me.
Wasn't the last one a lot of you, though? So
maybe
it's kind of fair that I have more.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You probably just have more notes in general. 87 is my next one. And it's called A Safe Place for Masculine Tenderness.
Sounds intriguing.
Yes, it sought to. Page 87, second paragraph, says, and it's the second sentence, starting with no one.
Okay, got it.
A safe place for masculine tenderness. No one is saying that a boy with a severed limb should be yelled at for bleeding on the carpet. Wow, let's jump into that situation. Nevertheless, instilling toughness in boys is extraordinarily important. A masculine toughness is the only foundation upon which a masculine tenderness may be safely placed. One on the point of like dealing with toughness, this is of practical importance for you, Big T. Like it'd be great if you could get, not saying your wife's not on board, but if you could get your wife on board, like if you wrestle with the kids and one of them bumps their head or something, to be like, walk it off.
We actually do that.
Yeah, like, so wrestling with the kids is and I know I've told you this, and it's like one of the things that I learned from my dad is like, go to work is one thing I learned from my dad. Go to work, then go home and wrestle with your kids.
Okay, I was talking about the get over it kid.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I haven't wrestled with my kids as much as I probably ought to.
Yeah, failure. Well, I don't do it all the time, but it's like, sometimes, I do it sometimes. And it's harder now because there's more of their little hands and arms and legs. And
Just
it's only
even bigger.
And it's only a matter of time, like when there's that many heads and that many arms, that many legs, bad things happen almost every time. But it's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of the wrestling around, and like as the dad, they probably don't know this, but I'm constantly computing. This kid's over here, they're angled like this, so their head's here. This kid's over here, and they're here or whatever, like, so I'm trying to play with them safely.
Yeah.
But I am playing roughly with them, but it's, so things happen and like.
And it could not just be you though, too. It could be that one of the other kiddos accidentally carelessly knocks them over.
Yeah, or they like jerk themselves up really up, like, but they know, like, there's so many good things that come from wrestling with your kids. It's great. It's just great. The toughness part of it, the learning what it means to use strength and withhold strength and like to play, because it's not like them or I am going 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they're exercising restraint. I'm exercising restraint. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've known people who can't exercise their restraint. Like when they're playing rough, they go full on rough because they, I'm guessing, haven't had that interaction where they've been able to practice their.
Sure.
So continue with what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's still on this note of toughness, like, but like, yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say about it. Is like, dads, go to work, wrestle with your kids.
So the safe place that you're talking about for like the tender place, or safe place, is at home where you know that when you get hurt and somebody says get over it, they're not doing it to be a jerk.
Well, or I think the safe place that he's talking about is you can't have tenderness toward someone. Like, if I'm just a limp noodle all the time, if I'm soft with you, what does that matter to you? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you know me to be like a strong man who's strong, and I show my face like a flint to other people, and then to you, when something happens to you, I'm soft, that's going to mean something different because of this, the place where that tenderness is in strength.
Yeah.
Whatever. And that's the only like place where it can exercise itself rightly or whatever.
That makes sense.
That's deep.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's the point he's trying to make, is the only safe place for masculine tenderness is masculine strength. Otherwise, it's just a wet noodle, and what good are you? You're limp. Yes, you're being soft with me, but you're soft with everyone. Like, I don't care what you say, really.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So where did you stop?
Safely placed.
When you got it.
And so yeah, wrestling with the kids, A+, 10-4, good buddy. Oh yeah, what I always say to you is put him in a headlock.
Oh yeah,
because that sparks the whole event right there.
Yeah. Well, it didn't used to.
But so like when they're really little, like your kids, particularly like with Gideon, what I would do, because it's hard to wrestle because they don't really know like what to do with themselves. Even you can still do the headlock because like that's good for them. But what I did with the kids at that age is I would sit on the floor.
They would naturally come up and
sort of, yeah, climb on you or whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about. I would sit on the floor and I would send them to like one side of the room or something and just let them run into me. And I'd fall.
Oh.
It's just a little stupid thing. Yeah, it's just a little thing. Try not to obviously headbutt each other. But that's part of the restraint part even then still, right? Like Gideon's got to learn. I need to protect my head and not like smack into my dad's head with my head or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but it's what's really helpful is when mom can get in with it or whatever, like, and like spur him on even to like to fight back or to run at you or whatever.
I can see my wife getting excited about it.
It's fun
pushing them.
Yep, and it's helpful to them. Or like sometimes when my youngest boy sort of whines a little bit, my wife would be like, "Come on, you can do it." And another thing, more practical advice for moms is, mom will jump in and be like, "Poke him in the belly button, karate chop him in the arm," and give like very specific advice to help him fight back or whatever.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and this is sort of a way that we make fun of them in a very respectful and Christian way, is accuse them of being starfish when they're just like playing dead or whatever.
The kiddos?
Yeah, when they're like... We call it starfish mode. You just go into starfish mode. And so that's when my wife, if she can tell that like the kid is just sort of like and not thinking, they're like maybe overwhelmed by my strength. That's when she'll be like, cry, chop him in the arm, poke him in the belly button.
Oh, to spur him on?
Yeah. Yep. She'll like sort of egg him on or whatever.
Look, it's possible
encourage
to take him
them.
down.
And I wonder too, like, so then a part of them might be thinking like, I'm fighting for mom. I don't know. That just came to me. But you know, it's different coming from mom than it is like coming from dad or whatever.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Mm-hmm. So it invigorates them to a different degree.
What's your note for it again? What's your heading for it?
A safe place for masculine tenderness.
Sounds like something I would write.
He's like... That's true. I like the first part of that quote too, where he's like, listen, if a kid's arm has been severed and they're bleeding on the carpet, don't tell them to toughen up.
Yeah.
Like, obviously. And it's funny that we even have to say things like that. Really. Like, you'd think that would be common sense.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm talking about telling the kid to toughen up, I'm not talking about, like, they're legitimately severely injured, you know.
Yeah.
Walk it off, kid.
Yeah. In our home, if a kid bumps their head against the table, we'll be like, you're fine. Get over it.
Yep.
But if they, like, legitimately go to sit down and put their full weight and hit their head against the table, then we'll have a little bit more compassion.
Sure.
Like, come here.
Yeah.
And maybe be like, that really hurt.
Feel bad. Yeah. It's totally different. Mm-hmm.
But then after a little while of that, at that point, we'd be like, well, you're fine.
But if they're like, I got a scratch right here, you're like, go away.
Can I have a Band-Aid? You don't get a Band-Aid for that.
Just lick it like normal kids do.
That's good for you.
No, but I've never said that to my kids a single time. I just want you. Sorry, it's sad that I even have to say it.
I'm still 118.
101. Drains and exports.
101. Drain and exports.
Drains and exports.
Giants, dragons, and books. I like that. I like that.
Oh. 101. In the middle of the first paragraph. It's a C.S. Lewis quote. Did you mark it? No, because you're a loser.
I didn't.
You need to toughen up and mark C.S. Lewis quotes.
You're right.
Walk it off, kid.
I'm doing it now.
It starts with most of us know. So this is a quote from C.S. Lewis in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It's sort of narrative note. And C.S. Lewis says, most of us know what we should expect to find in a dragon's lair, but, as I said before, Eustace had read only the wrong books. They had a lot to say about exports and imports and governments and drains, but they were weak on dragons. Doug Wilson continues, it is a standing rebuke for us that there are many Christians who have open sympathy for true books, which Eustace read. And Eustace is what you would call a punk. And so Eustace in the books, there's a really great redemptive arc to Eustace in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It's a theme in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. But he read the wrong kind of books. Eustace's books were full of facts, but not one of them was apparently framed within the context of the real world, where there's real problems, real dragons, real enemies to be really fought. And so now Eustace finds himself in a story. He wanders into a dragon's lair where there's dragon's treasure everywhere, and he doesn't know what to find there. What do you find there? A dragon. You find a dragon there, and you find cursed gold there. Anyway, he continues, so Eustace had read many of these true books full of true facts about governments, drains, and exports, and who are suspicious. So this is Doug Wilson rebuking that so many Christians are sympathetic to true books about imports and exports and drains, but they're suspicious of works of imagination like the Narnia stories or the Lord of the Rings or Treasure Island because they're fictional and therefore they're suspected of lying. The Bible requires us to be truthful above all things, they tell us. And so we should not tell our sons stories about dragon fighting. Our sons need to be strong on drains and weak on dragons. The irony here is that the Bible, the source of all truth, says a lot about dragons and giants and very little about drains and exports. So if you want your kids to be prepared for real life, well, then you read them the dragon stories. You read them the story of the great dragon slayer, of the Son of God who came and crushed the serpent's head to save his princess, or you might call her the bride of Christ. You tell them that true story, and you tell them other stories which reflect that true story. That is the type of stories you should be reading to your kids. Imports, exports, and drains? Sure, if they want. Don't let them read it, you know. There's a place for vitamins in the world, and those books are sort of like the vitamins of the literary world. You know, you take it when you're sort of deficient in that one thing, and I'm glad it's there, but I don't live on those.
Yeah.
So that is Drains and Exports. That was the title.
It's good.
Yeah, that is life-changing literary philosophy and really, really biblical theology. Like the Dragon Slayer, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
the Dragon Slayer. Destroying the works of the serpent. My next one, it keeps going. Oh yeah, the next one's on page 102. Were you sleeping during this section? This was such a good section of the book, and
I think this is where I stopped reading and started picking random pages.
Oh, funny. This is so good.
Is there more C.S. Lewis that I missed?
What was I going to read 2 pages to you? Where's the end of this note here? Oh, it's the end of the paragraph. I'm a loser. Yes. Page 102. Dragon lore versus therapy speak. Dragon lore? You, Tim, take a choice here. Red-blooded man. Dragon lore? Therapy speak. And if I know you, I'm just kidding. Dragon lore just because you said I was going to go for therapy. Okay, so this is Dragon lore versus therapy speak.
And it's...
Oh, it's the first actual paragraph on page 102, and it's the whole paragraph. We fell into sin as a race because we were beguiled by a dragon. God promised to send a warrior who would crush the seed of the serpent, and he has done this in Jesus Christ. In sum, the gospel is the story of a dragon fight. The serpent of Genesis is the dragon of Revelation, and we are called to rejoice that the dragon has been slain. In contrast, we have reduced the gospel to 4 basic steps toward personal happiness, and we're much further from the truth than our fathers were when they told their glorious stories. There's another way of saying dragon lore. This, is another way of saying that dragon lore is truer than therapy speak. My next one is on page 105.
Still you.
105, second paragraph on the page, it says, oh yeah, the note is some autobiography. So this must be about Douglas Wilson.
Oh, okay.
And his interaction with literature. It's these 2 paragraphs, both of these.
Oh, okay.
Starting with, and I do not. The second paragraph on the page. And I do not see how I can finish this chapter without being autobiographical. I grew up in Narnia and Archenland as a boy. And as a boy, considered myself as much an Archenlander as an American. All my sympathies and sentiments were there, and I still cannot read about Shasta's run toward his unknown home without being affected by it. It does no good to tell me that Narnia does not actually exist, because Puddleglum speaks for me here. He would rather live as a free Narnian, even if there is no Narnia, than acquiesce in the belief that a dank cave was all there was to the world. This was deep loyalty in the bones, not neo-orthodoxy. A boy could do far worse than have an allegiance to a non-existent king. He might grow up as kids today do, without any loyalties at all. This was not frivolous daydreaming. It was hard-headed realism. I want to re-say that again because I like it. This puts I don't know, fuel in the tank.
That works.
Puts fuel in the tank. This was not frivolous daydreaming. It was hard-headed realism. And by leading me into these books, my Father equipped me for things as they really are in the world. I did not get to Middle Earth until high school, but I saw to it that my children were introduced to the Lord of the Rings much earlier than I had been. I would read to the family in the evening. You know how he was able to do that? This is a word to the wise. You know how Doug Wilson was able to read the Lord of the Rings to his children in the evening? Because during the week, they didn't run the TV in the house. So during the week, in the evenings, during the school week, no TV in the house. So you say, how do people have time to read Lord of the Rings to your kids? That's how. In point of fact, that's how. He says, I would read to the family in the evening, and it was frequently the case that I was not permitted to stop and had to read for 3 or 4 hours at a stretch. The first time I read through the trilogy to the kids, my son was a 2-year-old, and he sat and listened quite patiently. We were not sure how much he was getting, but during the battle scenes, his cheeks would get hot. That's all I've got.
I've been reading that, so just to prove that I read it.
Next is on page 124. What is yours next one? And then it goes to the end of the paragraph.
Oh, 118. You said yours is on
124.
Oh, that's so nice.
Is it in the dragon chapter? Nope. It's not. Oh, okay. I have another note on 106, but it's not marked, but I want to read it anyway.
Okay, can you give me the...
It's some autobiography for that one.
Oh, that one's original.
Leave me alone. The last two have been a little weak. Okay, deal with it. Oh, I see the mark about the one with the toy gun. I have it marked as well.
Oh, well, then we'll see who...
What? I'm okay with it.
Autobiographical.
Yeah, some autobiography.
Oh, yeah, some autobiography.
Yeah. Read to the kids. Read to the kids. Family worship helps with that because you get in a habit of reading to the kids and then you realize that it's good. Well, hopefully, I guess you realized maybe before you started it that was good. But you see more and more like, wow, I can do this. I can do it. I can win in this way. Everybody can sit down. We can all focus on something together. And it's like, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, page 106. I don't have any mark for this. It's just, but I mean, when you write an exclamation point on a page that big,
it's gotta be good.
I don't know.
If it's not, then this book is not just good for reading. I might hit you with it too.
It's the last paragraph on page 106. In this kind of literature, nobility was stirred up in the small things and was exalted in the great things. When the time came for great deeds, whether the enemy was Smaug or Sauron or the witch or Long John Silver or the dragon that St. George killed, these stories were ready to do what Scripture commands us to do. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. Christians are a race of dragon fighters. Our sons are born to this. Someone ought to tell them. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. What a good way to end the chapter 8. 124. So it's your
118. 118, 120. It's the first full paragraph, I think. Yep.
What's the heading?
Friends and church. She sounds good. Good families are hard to find outside of good churches. Friendship and family are covenant realities, and it is hard for them to flourish outside of a covenant community, a place where the word is faithfully taught and the sacraments are carefully observed. Parents who care about their sons growing up faithfully should therefore place a high priority on finding a faithful, flourishing church, and if there is none, they should carefully consider finding a town to live in which does have one. So, our church is small, but I would rather have our church with the friends and opportunities that Gideon has than to be in a high flourishing church. I mean, I would like to be in a high flourishing church.
No, I think you mean an evangelifish church. I know.
Yeah.
Something that's sort of like Christian, has all the Christian speak, knows all the right,
knows Christianese,
has their, there's so many different things. Don't think I'm picking on anyone in particular, but like they have their pot blesses and their I'll pray for yous and their whatever, fuddy-duddy stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the point of this, is be a part of a good church that speaks the truth. And he mentions that a flourishing church, which is a good thing, because then you have lots of opportunities for friends that, so long as it's not the fuddy-duddy church, should be a good church to have good friendships.
Yeah, and it really, like, the more people in the church, it also is great because it's the more opportunity for other people to point out your mistakes.
That's true.
And not only that, but you have more opportunities to show grace to other people's weaknesses.
Oh, that's true as well.
So it's like
the bigger the family gets, the more you have to put up with one another.
Yeah, yep. The more opportunities for correction, the more opportunities for grace to be extended. There's many benefits to that sort of thing.
So my next one is then on 120. What's yours on?
124, so you're up again.
Okay. It's the last partial paragraph.
Okay.
And the heading for it is Sacrificial Friend and Faithful. I have a feeling I know who he's going to talk about. Friendship, it's... You there? Okay.
Yep.
Friendship is defined by willingness to sacrifice. Ultimate friendship is seen in the sacrifice of Christ for his people. In lesser but similar ways, friends must identify themselves as such in the world by their willingness to by their willingness to give to sacrifice. This may appear to be case, but later compromise or treachery shows that it is not. Nevertheless, parents should look for friends who do not appear to be on the take. At the same time, it should go without saying. They should be training their sons to be the same way. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. So, in that, it's talking about how Christ, as an example of sacrifice, should be what we look for in a friend that is willing to sacrifice. But at the same time, we shouldn't have our children just look for a friend that is going to sacrifice.
Oh, sure.
We're supposed to teach them to be sacrificial themselves.
Yep, to be a friend as much as to look for the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, like, look out for ones who are on the take. And I think you mean, like, takers rather than, like, givers or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And the training, like you said, your kids need to be trained to do the same thing. Like, don't go suck the lifeblood out of everyone else or whatever. Like, pour into them. Yes, don't look for people that are just there to drain you, but be pouring into them or whatever.
Yeah. Be a friend that is willing, that gives as much as he takes, or at least gives some.
And friends that don't have a friendship bank that everyone keeps track of the letter.
Oh, yeah. You mean like how some friendships can be where a friend is kind to a friend, and then they feel bad because they were kind to them, and so they feel like they have to give back.
Yep.
You're talking about that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Or like a friend that like gives a friend a book and then wonders like, when is he going to give me a book? Or something, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, but we're,
both
no
of
keeping
those ways.
score.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it looks like I have one on 121, but I'm going to read it. It doesn't have a heading.
Oh, okay.
The Apostle John was... Oh, I have an arrow, so that indicates that it's a continuance of this one.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, the Apostle John was this kind of friend to the saints in Asia, I, John, who also am your brother and companion in tribulation, a true friend loveth at all times.
He didn't ditch when the tribulation came, is his point.
Yeah. So, I like that. That's not just make sure your kids are finding good friends to give to you, and it's not just make sure your friends or your kids are given as much as they take from a friend. It's also an admonition to us to do that with our friends. So don't just be looking for good friends for your kid, and don't teach your son to be a good kid. Be a good friend yourself to the friends that you have. Don't be a leech. Good friendship is rooted in God. Page 122.
How many more do you have left?
I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I have 5 left as well. We should probably stop there, and we'll cover those in the next one, hopefully. Do you have a favorite one?
Let me look.
Yeah. What's your favorite one? Oh, I don't know. Not even hard. Not even close second to this one. The dragon fighting one. All that dragon stuff was my favorite. Sorry, pick a different one.
I have to now.
Yeah, all of that about like Eustace reading the wrong kinds of books, the importance of fairy tales, the importance of the dragon fighting myth in history or whatever, like saving the princess. I was just thinking yesterday, this is totally sort of a rabbit trail, but not really. I mean, like, in this way, think about this. What's Mario?
An Italian?
Yeah, that's true. But what's his mission? Do you know?
Tickets to find the princess.
Okay, and then who's he got to defeat?
The dragon. I play that game.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, isn't that crazy? Like,
yeah.
Like, that's how steeped, that's how much rooted in us that here's this company makes this game.
Yeah.
What is it? Man saved princess. How do you save the princess? By killing the dragon. Jesus Christ slays the serpent, gets the girl. Like, and it's reflected in something. And now I'm not, you can say all you want, oh, you're just looking for Christian themes in Mario. I wasn't looking for them at all. It's like right on the surface.
It's plain to see.
And I'm not saying like...
You're not saying that they intentionally made it that way?
Or that Jesus is Mario. Or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is a reflection of the reality found in God's Word. This game isn't the reality or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is a reflection of the trope that all of us understand, that like slay the dragon, save the princess. That's good.
Yeah, it is good. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Any other one that you have, Big T? I threw my book, so I need this.
I'm okay with that. I would say I really like the friends one.
Oh, really?
To be a good friend. Mm-hmm. It's something that...
I can tell that you're burdened to be a good friend. I'm not saying that you are one. I'm just saying to be one.
Yeah, it is something that really burdened me before.
Uh-huh.
And I've hopefully grown to be a better friend as time goes on. But I liked it.
Yep. That's good. Okay, well with that, hopefully we'll be able to do a number 3 on the book. And with that, I wish you well.
Farewell.